Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today we are back with another tier list video. This time I'm gonna be ranking all of Cirque's collections from 2023. In case you missed it, a couple of weeks ago I did my first tier list video ranking all of Mooncat's collections from last year. I just thought it would be really fun to sort of rank all of these collections from the main 4 boutique brands, just because I'm the most familiar with those brands and have shared them on my channel before, but I wanted to make it a little bit more fun and interesting by doing a tier list style video. So if you aren't familiar, a tier list is basically a ranking system from the letters S through F, where S is exceptional, like almost perfection, and F is obviously like failure, poo-poo, we do not like it. Granted, because I do love a lot of the brands that I share and their collections, a lot of the collections are going to be skewed towards like the top half of the tier list. Usually people might be very picky where they will reserve the S tier for like 1 or 2 things. I guess maybe the right way to go about a tier list for collections is that every single polish would have to be like perfect. I just have a hard time narrowing down my favorites, but I still will reserve S for like the best of the best from the brand. So yeah, I will have a link to this tier maker down below in the description box if you want to rank Cirque's collections from last year. But without further ado, let me just show you my rankings. Here is the tier list with all the collections on the bottom, and I forgot to mention this before, but Cirque, like many other boutique brands, basically release collections on like a monthly basis. I am going to be excluding their do good polishes, which are usually just individual releases. While I'm normally not a fan of like limited edition individual drops, I do appreciate that they are for charity at least, but yeah, I don't want to like rank charity polishes. These are going to be just the full 6-piece collections, and 2 of them are actually the returning jellies that they brought back, which I will get into in a little bit. But starting with the month of January, Cirque released their Falling in Lust collection. This was a 6-piece collection that consisted of 3 jelly polishes, 1 cream, 1 magnetic, and a flaky metallic shredded topper. Technically, the collection also did come with this like oil slick nail art foil set. I'm personally not going to be reviewing those like extras as a part of the collection. I'm just going to be looking at the polishes themselves. And this one didn't really speak to me so much. Like, I am a jelly fan and I did like the new jellies that we got because they were like these vampire kind of colors. We also got the black jelly, but that one was just like super sheer. I feel like the theme of the collection was supposed to be like grunge, and I don't know, I kind of see it, but I don't at the same time. So I think I'm gonna give this one a C to start out. Then in February, we got the Heavenly Bodies collection, and this was a full 6-piece collection of all magnetic polishes. The names of the polishes were, I think, inspired by like celestial bodies, and there were also these like nail art charms that were included in the collection as well, but again, I'm not really paying attention to those. For the polishes themselves, I, again, kind of had some mixed feelings. I feel like I've talked about this a couple of times already. The most recent was probably in my favorite magnetics video, so if you watch that, you know exactly what I'm gonna say, where Cirque is like my least favorite brand when it comes to magnetic polishes because I just personally don't like how sheer and jelly they are if you're wearing them as a cat eye effect. But because I prefer wearing magnetics in a velvet effect, these are actually really good for that. But I kind of have like a love-hate relationship with their magnetics, and I feel like that just makes it so hard to kind of rank them, because if I'm ranking them as a cat eye magnetic specifically, I would honestly put them in the D tier, but for a velvet effect, I would put them in A, I think. They're just like really pretty. But actually thinking about it a little bit more, I think I'm gonna just put them in C, because as far as the color story goes, I wasn't super impressed. Like, some of the colors felt pretty familiar to other magnetics they already had. There's only like a few shades that were really like unique, I guess. So yeah, a C feels right for this release. Then in March, we got the Gourmand collection, and this was another 6-piece collection inspired by like like food and yummy ingredients. Again, this also technically came with like some charms and some nail art stickers, but for the polishes themselves, there again were 3 jelly polishes, a cream, a speckled polish, and then a trithermal. I feel like if you know me and my taste, you know already how I feel about this collection. I generally really enjoyed it. Again, I am a big jelly polish lover and I loved these new ones that we got. Even though at first I did kind of have some concerns over ube and rosewater jelly looking very similar to existing Cirque jellies, they ended up being really different. I loved the new cream that we got with matcha. It was just such a beautiful, vibrant green. The speckled one is the only one that I think kind of performed the worst. It just didn't have a great formula, but I liked the idea of it. And I know thermals are already like a very controversial finish. Like some people either love them or hate them. Honestly, I'm kind of in the middle. Like with Cirque's thermals specifically, I could go either way where I just either love them or hate them. But I was just really impressed with this trithermal in the collection. I just thought it was so pretty. So I think I'm gonna put this in the A tier. Then in the month of April, we got the release of the Surfer's Crush collection, but alongside that, they also released their Seaglass jellies, which they kind of brought back. They were called like the returning jellies. So I'm gonna treat those as like 2 separate releases. So starting with the Surfer's Crush collection, that was a 6-piece collection that had the same shimmer finish, just in different colors. Again, if you've watched my favorite shimmers video, you know that I love this finish from Cirque specifically. I'm even wearing one of them right now. I'm wearing Ohana. It's my favorite one from this collection. The only one I didn't like was Shaka because of the yellow. I don't know if it was just that particular shade of yellow or the yellow with like the red kind of contrast that wasn't really for me, but everything else I absolutely loved. So this is an easy S tier for me. I don't know if that's gonna be crazy, but I feel like it just was one of their strongest collections from the year. So then they also brought back their returning jellies, which were aqua jelly, cobalt jelly, and lime jelly. And they were essentially sold together as like a Seaglass set. So you can like layer them and use a matte top coat, and you can do these like really pretty Seaglass nails. Even though we already did have a blue jelly with Morning Tide and even navy jelly, and then a green one with jade jelly, we just didn't have like these shades. And I feel like Cirque has released a lot of like pinks and purples for their jellies, so I was really excited to get these new shades. Again, big jelly fan here, so I would put this in the A tier just because I really loved the concept of these. The colors were great. So yeah, I know a lot of you guys who do not like jellies are probably gonna rank this so low, but I was a big fan of them. Then for the month of May, Cirque released their highly anticipated Vice collection. And if you don't know, every year, usually in the month of May, at the very beginning of summer, they'll release their Vice collection, which is a 6-piece neon cream collection. And I'm not sure if they've done this every year, but at least the past couple of years, they have done this thing where you can like vote in on the Vice shades you would want to see back. They actually recently did the survey for that. If it's still up, I will have that linked in the description box below. But yeah, so last year, out of the 6 polishes, 3 of them were fan voted returns and the other 3 were entirely new shades. Of the ones that were voted to come back, they were Game Over, Hedonist, and Cream. I feel like a lot of people were kind of upset that those like won, but I was really happy because I voted for those shades. And then as far as the 3 new ones, I feel like a lot more people were upset about those because they were kind of like bleached or pastel neons. Those 3 being Rumor Mill, Klepto, and Shopaholic. And if you know me and my taste, I still really enjoyed those shades. I mean, Shopaholic easily became one of my favorite pinks. The only one that I was kind of let down by was Klepto because it just didn't really give neon to me. Even as like a bleached or pastel neon, it just was like a light purple. So I didn't love that one, but overall, I thought the lineup was good. I kind of wish maybe instead of the purple, we got a blue. I have my fingers crossed that this year they will bring back something brighter like Miami-Dade or Fame. Those are the ones that I voted for, by the way. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put Vice in B tier for now. It is almost kind of crazy to think that I like them less than the Seaglass jellies. That might move, but for now, B feels comfortable. Then in the month of June, we saw our first Cirque collab with mxmtoon, who is this like indie artist. I mean, she's like really popular. She has millions of listeners on Spotify and everything. I hadn't heard of her before, but I started listening to her music to kind of like get an idea of who she was. and I really enjoyed her music. Her collection also included a lot of those like shimmer polishes, which I really enjoy. There's also this super pretty iridescent flaky balm released in that collection too, which was a little bit disappointing because in the bottle it just looks like so pink and glassy, kind of giving me like Sailor Moon vibes or something, but on the nail you just don't get a lot of that pink color. But I still really loved everything else about the collection. The polishes were just so beautiful, easily some of my favorite jellies we've gotten. I also obviously loved the shimmers in that collection. Crying Contest and Porcelain Plum were some other favorites of mine. And the packaging was so cute too. Like I loved the individual cartons that they came in. I just love the attention to detail. It was just all so cute. So I'm gonna give this an S tier. Then in August, we got the Kelli Marissa collection, which was like Vegas inspired. This was also when Cirque introduced or launched their new finish called Shimmer Graphics, which is basically like their already existing shimmer finish polish, but with a lot more holographic effect. I know a lot of people had issues with Cirque trademarking this shimmer graphic effect because it's kind of like a finish we've seen in like other indie brands. I kind of get it though, because it's like a new finish for them specifically. I personally don't really care about the trademark thing that much. As far as the finish goes, it's really beautiful, I think. And for this collection, I did like the majority of them. I've never been to Vegas, but I guess like this is what it feels like. I thought the colors were really pretty too. Like I really loved Flamingo and All In. But even though I really loved Flamingo, I just still thought it was a little too similar to Cirque's Fandango, which was an existing shimmer polish of theirs, just with the hollow turned up to like 1,000. And with the red and black gold flaky jelly polishes, I felt like they were a little too easy to recreate. So I kind of wish that they were like a little bit more different. I feel like I would put this in the B tier. I just don't know if I would put it in front of or behind Vice. Again, it might seem crazy that I'm putting the Seaglass jellies in front of both of these collections, but you know, this is just how I feel. Then in September, we got the Scream Queen collection. And look, I've already ranted about this collection before. I will have my original review video linked up in the cards. This was a 5-piece collection that had 4 tinted jelly bases, but not jelly polishes, that all glowed in the dark. And there was a silver chunky glitter topper as well. Honestly, the silver glitter was like the best thing about this release. While I'm not the biggest fan of glow in the dark polishes, I just really do not like the glow in the dark pigment that Cirque uses because it's like that grainy effect. I also think that it's weaker than other brands' glow in the dark toppers. Yeah, I just do not even want to get into it again about the whole like tinted jelly bases thing. This was just not great, and unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give that one an F. Then in October, they released their Far Far Away collection, and this was this like fairy tale inspired collection. It was also a big one where it was 8 pieces instead of the usual 6, and they were all in the new shimmer graphic formula. This was a total 180 from the previous release. I just enjoyed this one so much. As you all know, I'm a big fan of like fairy themed collection, and like I already mentioned, I am a fan of Cirque's shimmer graphic finish. I think it is really pretty. So honestly, I would put these in the A tier, but I think I would put them in front of the jellies. I don't know if I would put them in front of Gourmand though. I feel like that as a collection just speaks to me more as a whole, but Far Far Away is still absolutely beautiful. Then in the month of November, they released their Atelier collection, which was like this fashion and textile inspired set. This one had a range of finishes and colors, so that was really fun to see the variety. I feel like it was one of the more creative collections that we've seen as far as the lineup goes. A lot of the previous collections either were all of the same finish or half of them were the same finish, so this was really cool to get just totally different finishes for each polish. I didn't see them market this as a winter collection, but I feel like they could have. I don't know, the color palette just screams winter to me, and the whole, you know, cozy fabrics and textiles, like it just makes so much sense. So I kind of wish they did lean into that marketing a little bit more. So even though this was a fun collection in regards to the range of shades and finishes, it didn't totally wow me. I feel like giving it a B tier is fair. The only polish that I really kind of hated was Cosplay Lame. It's just not the right gold for me. Sorry, I also blacked out Twinkle Tweed because it just reminds me of like shaved leg hair. Aside from those two, I do think the other four help balance out the rest of the collection. So putting it at the end of B just makes the most sense to me. In November, alongside the Atelier collection, they also relaunched some other returning jellies. These were specifically a part of the Tortoise set, so they included mahogany jelly, rust jelly, and mustard jelly. I feel like Cirque was kind of ahead of their time when they first introduced their Tortoise jellies, because this was like several years ago when they first launched them. I personally feel like it has just been a missed opportunity year after year, because every fall tortoise nails just take over the internet, and so I'm surprised that it took them this long to bring them back. Also kind of sucked that they did release these in November, where it's kind of like the end of the fall season. I mean, you guys know me, I'm a big seasonal wearer, so I was ready to move on to like the winter holiday designs for December. So I almost wish that they had released these as like a little bundle earlier instead of launching them alongside of this collection, but like I get it because it's Tortoise and it's like with the fashion. While I generally am happy that these came back and we can do tortoise nails again super easy, I feel like I want to put these in the C tier, but I don't know if they would be in front of or behind Falling in Lust. I think I'll keep them behind Falling in Lust, which again might be controversial, but I kind of like the jellies in Falling in Lust more. But yeah, it'll be in the middle of C. I almost forgot to include this one, but in the month of December, Cirque re-released, in quotes, Coronation, which was this polish from I don't know how long ago, like 2012-ish. They released their very first one, and it contained that super elusive unicorn pea pigment, which is basically like a red shimmer that shifts to green in extreme angles. From what I've read, it went out of circulation a couple years back because some country was using it in their currency, which is kind of cool to think about, but yeah, as a pigment for nail polish, you just don't see it anymore. They did re-release a version, I think maybe in like 2017 or something, and then this is their second re-release that supposedly contained some of the original unicorn pea pigment that they had left over. But even though it did have the original pigment, it still was a little bit tweaked from the very original polish that they released. And as expected, a lot of people were not happy about that. I guess not so much that, you know, it was slightly tweaked, but just that Cirque didn't effectively communicate that. I saw a lot of people on Reddit talking about how they had bought like 2 bottles of Coronation, but then after reading some comments about how it's not exactly the same pigment or whatever, they ended up canceling their order. Like I mentioned, this was a super limited batch where it sold out like immediately. So yeah, feel free to share your experiences with Coronation in the comments if you have any. Never ended up sharing it because of just how fast it sold out, and I didn't want to make anyone feel bad about it. But for what it's worth, I still really liked the polish. I never had the original or the first re-release that they brought back a couple years ago, and I just thought it was pretty. Granted, I do not think it was worth the price, where I think they listed it at like $18.50. I don't remember how much the original Coronation costed back then, let alone the original like unicorn pea pigment. I know it's like limited edition and that drives the price. While I think it is really pretty, I don't think it's super unique, especially these days where we see a lot of like red to green shifting shimmers. I immediately thought of shades like ILNP's Hallucinate. Even Starly's Corpse Flower is another one where they just have very similar vibes. I know that there's all this kind of drama behind this one polish, but again, just focusing on the polish itself. So if I look at this as like a polish that's readily available, let's say, I think that I would put this in the B tier, currently in front of Atelier. I don't know if I would put it in front of the Kelli Marissa collection. It's a little hard to like rank it exactly because it's one polish compared to collections. But yeah, this just feels right to me. So this is my completed 2023 Cirque collections tier list. I'm super curious to know what you think of these rankings. I feel like it was a little weird at first because I just kind of had like the blocks. I know a lot of people were not excited about a lot of the launches that Cirque put out last year. I generally did enjoy a lot of what Cirque released last year because, again, I love jellies, I love shimmers, and we got a lot of those. So I can totally understand for a lot of people who did not enjoy those finishes that these would be totally different rankings. Yeah, just to go through them, in the S tier, I have the Surfer's Crush collection and the mxmtoon collection. In A, I have the Gourmand collection, Far Far Away, and the Seaglass jellies. Then in the B tier, I have the most of them with Vice, the Kelli Marissa collection, Coronation, and Atelier. C tier, we have Falling in Lust, the Tortoise jellies, and then the Heavenly Bodies magnetics. And there's nothing in D, and lastly in F, we have the Scream Queen collection, which I know might be harsh having one collection in the F tier, which we haven't seen so far, but as a reminder, this is just my personal taste, how I enjoyed these collections and releases, and for the most part, I did enjoy the majority of them. So that wraps up my 2023 collection tier list for Cirque colors. As always, I would love to know what you think of my rankings, if you agree with them or disagree. As I've mentioned in my best of video for Cirque, where I also ranted about them, I think it is possible to love a brand but also be able to critique some of their actions, do things that I don't agree with, mainly like their swatch photos and videos that are just very misleading. I still very much enjoy their actual polishes. I feel very aligned with their brand values. I love that they do their charity do good polishes. I just hope that this isn't coming across as like me being too negative or I'm trying to like bash the brand. I just think it's important to bring up and talk about, especially someone like myself who not only gets PR from Cirque, but I'm an affiliate with them. I have worked with them in the past, and I don't want those things to sway any opinions that I might have about the brand or the polishes. I know a lot of people just immediately assume that people who get PR are just kind of like obligated to say only positive things, and I just kind of hate that generalization. Like, I know it's true for maybe a lot of people, say that a lot of my reviews tend to be more positive in general too, but I still try my best to be as transparent as possible with any criticisms that I have. I feel like talking about all that kind of PR stuff and the obligations or expectations is a whole other issue and maybe a whole separate video topic. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to clarify that because I can kind of understand why some people might be like, how are you not a fan of this brand, but you're still an affiliate? That is just not the case. Like, I like Cirque as a brand. I stand by their brand values. They're a brand that I want to be associated with, so that's why I continue to be an affiliate with them. Hopefully that makes sense, but if you have any questions about that, just leave them down below and I would be happy to answer them, or just leave me any and all thoughts that you have so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.